What is up, y'all? Welcome to a brand new review series for Alien Earth. It is a series that I have been so excited, so hyped to finally watch and to finally review for months now. I am a huge Alien fan. I think Alien, the OG one, is one of the best horror movies ever made. It's one of my favorite series, despite the fact that 3 and Resurrection are not all that great. But I will say this, now that the show is coming out, I do plan on rewatching all of those movies. I know a handful of years ago, when we first started the podcast, I reviewed every single Alien movie. It's time to jump back into that series for sure. But we're not here for the movies, we're here for Alien Earth, the brand new TV series that you can find on Hulu and Disney Plus. It is created by Noah Hawley, who did Fargo, and then he also did Legion on FX. So he's got a track record for being pretty good. All right. So I have a lot of faith in Noah Hawley, and I just want to put this out there. I have not watched any trailers. I legitimately don't know anything about this show ahead of time. So I'm going into it super fresh and with an open mind. They released the first 2 episodes on August 12th. So from this point forward, if you have not caught up through episode 1, I'm specifically talking about episode 1 right now. If you have not watched that episode, this is where you push pause and then come back once you have watched it, because I will be talking full spoilers from this point forward. As I mentioned a minute ago, I went into this completely blind, and I was expecting a very fresh take on the Alien franchise, and I think that's what we're getting. I think through episode 1, it's a little bit slower episode. I understand why they released 2 episodes at the same time, because episode 1 is a lot of setup. Now, I will say this right out the gate. I don't think episode 1 is perfect. I think a lot of it has to do with the characters and me not really becoming attached to them in episode 1. I don't really find them, other than maybe 3 characters, I don't really find them all that interesting and compelling. But I also understand that this is long-form storytelling. We're getting this story told over 8 episodes, not over the course of a 2-hour-long movie. So I understand that there is going to be build-up, and that I'm not necessarily going to attach myself to any one character super early on. You know, it's going to take time to build up these characters and develop them throughout the story. So I completely understand all that. But with that being said, that is the one thing that kind of makes me not love it as much. I think when you go into any Alien movie, you gotta feel for the characters. You gotta feel attached to them. I think you go to the OG Alien movie, those characters are all unique. You become attached to them for better or for worse. And then Aliens, same thing, and so on and so forth. And even like Alien Romulus, which came out, last year? I really do love that movie. I constantly think about Alien Romulus. I don't think that movie gets enough credit for how great it is. But with any of those movies, you gotta have some feelings towards the characters. And as of right now, I would say there's probably 3 characters that I'm intrigued by. Kirsch, for one, but to be fair, I'm a huge Timothy Olyphant fan. So, I don't know. Am I interested in him because of the actor, or am I interested in him because of the actual character? I'm going to lean towards the actual character because he's very mysterious. His relationship with Wendy, who is the main character of this show, she is this brand new addition to the Alien series, where we now have hybrids, which are essentially terminally ill kids, where they transfer their consciousness to an adult synthetic, and basically it's created this immortality, which we'll get into in just a minute. Wendy is very interesting, mostly because of the aspect of her being a hybrid, which we have not gotten that in the Alien series so far. So this is a brand new element to the series and the franchise. We have this added depth and elements to the story with this hybrids versus the synthetics versus the cyborgs. And I think they do that in a very interesting way to make you feel invested in this storyline going forward. And like I mentioned a few minutes ago, anytime that they do something new in the Alien franchise, you have to incorporate something new. But it wasn't until this show that I started realizing just how little lore we actually get with the Alien series. I mean, you go back, what do we have? We have Weyland-Yutani, we have the facehuggers, the xenomorphs, the eggs, the queen, and we have the planets that they've been to. We have the engineers and how the xenomorphs came to be. That is essentially it when it comes to the lore told in the movies. Now, I know there are comic books out there. I personally have not read any of the comics yet, but in the movies, really haven't gotten this in-depth, rich world to explore. And I think in episode 1, Noah Hawley is able to give us a lot of new things very, very quickly. And the addition of these new synthetics called hybrids, that's interesting because if you go back to the movie of Prometheus, where Weyland was in search for immortality, and now we have this new guy who I'm assuming is the overarching villain of the series. He's kind of like the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. He is the leader of Prodigy, which is kind of what the show is following mostly, and that is Boy Cavalier. He's a self-proclaimed genius, and he's the youngest trillionaire ever. So he definitely has that villain aspect to him. Be interesting to see where they take that character, because we really, other than Weyland in Prometheus, we really haven't gotten a huge villain other than the synthetics and some of the movies. There's really not a villain outside of the xenomorphs, outside of Weyland-Yutani. So it is great to have another corporation added to this series, with it being Prodigy. So Kirsch, Wendy, great characters. Boy Cavalier, super interesting. Like I said, I'm excited to see where they're going to take this character in subsequent episodes and see if they kind of build that villain arc for him. I'm assuming he's going to be based on the fact that any corporation in the Alien series is just evil in general. But I don't know. I love the fact that we're not getting a Weyland-Yutani centric storyline here, where we're kind of branching off into these other corporations that are trying to fight for power. And if you go listen to some of the interviews with Noah Hawley, he kind of brings that to attention that, you know, with all the lore that we've gotten in the franchise, when you really think about it, there's not a whole lot there. So he's able to explore and add more depth to this world just based on that. So that really excites me for the future of this series. But those are the 3 main characters that I'm really invested in. I want to mention the one thing that got me hyped the most, the one thing that made me diamond status, and that is the beginning of this episode, where we have almost a 1-to-1 copy, a 1-to-1 remake of the OG Alien movie, where they're on the ship, they're coming out of the pods, and they're sitting there and they're eating, they're chatting. It is almost just shot for shot, second by second, the same thing that happened in the OG Alien movie. And it's things like that that I really appreciate when you do things of callbacks to previous properties. I think when you go back and look at Alien Romulus, a lot of the fan service, a lot of the callbacks were great. I loved them, especially some of the Easter eggs towards like Alien Isolation, some of the more obscure, less popular Alien titles, not just the OG Alien movie. But it also had some cringe moments when we had that synthetic saying bitch in that movie. It's some moments that, like, they just take it too far, and it's just things that we didn't need and didn't feel organic. Whereas this feels like a tip of the hat to Ridley Scott and that OG movie. So I absolutely loved this aspect of the show. It was the one thing that I loved the most out of episode 1. It just got me hyped. And while there are definitely some other callbacks and Easter eggs towards later properties within the Alien franchise, I think this pretty much goes on its own thing past this point. And I think that, to me, I take it as a passing of the baton, so to speak, where, okay, I'm nodding to the OG movie here, and then once we get past this part, I'm going to make it all my own. And it is so weird when you go back and look at it, and you're watching this episode, it's so weird seeing a alien property on Earth. You know, most of the time you're getting this dark, grim, just ugly environments for the most part. and planets that are not like inhabited all that much. That's essentially what you're getting, or you're getting the shit on the spaceships. This, we get to see Earth, we get to see buildings, we get to see hundreds of people in the city. So to me, it just feels more lived in. It feels more rich of an environment and of a setting now that we're finally on Earth. It's crazy that we haven't really gone there. I know we kind of went there at one point in one of the movies, but it was just briefly. But it's crazy to me how different the aesthetic of the show looks in comparison to the other Alien movies. When you compare them side by side, in terms of like a tone, it does feel a little bit different, mainly because it's so bright at times. But I just want that to be clear that I'm not complaining against that. I think it feels fresh. I like the different aspect, the different part of the universe that we're exploring here. So I'm completely down for the look of the show, which, by the way, the cinematography is absolutely fantastic. It is phenomenal. I think there's one moment towards the back end of the episode where it doesn't really do good with the special effects, but for the most part, the special effects are knocked out of the park. I think the ship, the environments, the set designs are all 10 out of 10. It does feel like an Alien movie at times, and it has that production value. It's not this shitty, very open and empty feeling of the set designs akin to something like The Acolyte. This feels real. It feels lived in, and at times it feels claustrophobic, which I really appreciate. That's one of the things that I really love about the Alien series when they're on the spaceships is everything is it feels like you can't go nowhere. It feels like you're trapped, and it feels super claustrophobic a lot of the times, which just adds a lot to the tension. But in terms of a look of the show, I think it looks great. It definitely has it has more of like a cyberpunk look to the show, which I'm definitely down for. Okay, anything cyberpunk, I'm right there with it. The stuff in space looks fantastic, where the ship like crashes into like a space station. Just all the special effects involved there just looks absolutely incredible. Now, there's two things I want to talk about before I close out this review. One being where they are now adding additional alien species into this universe. At this point, I don't know off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it's really just the xenomorph that we've gotten that's an alien species. They haven't really explored different species of aliens, and I'm not talking like xenomorph. I'm talking like other aliens. Like there's one with it's like tentacles with an eye, crazy looking. But I love the fact that we are exploring different alien species here, and it's not just the xenomorphs, the face huggers. It's not just that. We're exploring different aspects of this universe, and it just feels more fleshed out to me, where it's like beforehand, okay, well, the xenomorphs can't be the only aliens in this world. There's got to be others, right? So now that we are actually exploring and introducing these different species, these different specimens, as they mentioned in the series, it adds a level of freshness, but it also adds another level of tension that, I mean, if you have been watching Alien for years, yeah, you're still going to feel the tension of the xenomorph because they're scary as shit. But when you've seen them, you kind of know what the xenomorph is going to do. Well, in this series, now we're adding in some additional aliens. We don't know how they act, how they reproduce. We don't know how dangerous they are or how they kill people or what they do at all. So it adds an additional level of suspense to this series, which I really appreciate. And then there's a scene, and it was probably my second favorite scene of the show so far. And that was the scene where Wendy is standing next to the exam tables. All the kids are having their consciousness transferred to the adult synthetics. I just think that scene was really fucking cool. They're moving the camera back and forth. Instead of making like hard cuts with each kid having their consciousness transferred, they're moving the camera in a way where it's swooping down. And as it swoops across, it shows you another kid, another synthetic. And it just keeps doing that back and forth until all the kids have had their minds transferred. I don't know. It just felt really unique to me of a shot and how that sequence kind of unfolded. It wasn't like a one take scene. It just, the way it swooped, there's no hard cuts, just a camera moving back and forth. Just a cool, unique way of showing multiple kids without having to do some bland, boring montage. And then the last thing that I want to mention before I cut out of here, the xenomorphs. Are they awesome? Do they look awesome? Yeah, they do for the most part. I love the designs of the xenomorph. I think it looks incredible. I think it looks gross, and it's to me what a xenomorph should look like is what they have in this show. Now, there's one thing that happens in this episode that you've probably seen the memes already, and that is we have one of the crew members being killed at the door, and we have this cyborg named Morrow who's talking to Mother. And of course, they're doing the Weyland-Yutani typical bullshit of save the specimens at all costs and so on and so forth. This is the stuff that we see in every single movie. But the xenomorph kills that crew member on the outside of that door trying to get in. The xenomorph does like a moonwalk kind of thing where it backs up. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings about it. I think in the context of the scene of the show, I didn't have a lot of problems with it, but I've seen it on TikTok, I've seen it on YouTube, and they keep replaying it. The less I actually like that scene. I think it does kind of look a little dumb. I don't know. There's something about a xenomorph backing up to the camera, slowly trying to go after somebody. I don't know. I just found it a little silly with him just slowly backing up, considering how fast he has been throughout that entire episode. So I don't know. There was something about it. I didn't mind it when I was actually watching the episode, but when I saw clips of it outside of the show, I started liking it less and less. So I don't know. Leave me a comment down below what you thought about the xenomorph moonwalking. But yeah, guys, I thought episode 1 was pretty good. Did it meet my expectations? It's still there. It's still there. I liked it a lot. It's not perfect by any means. I think the characters are still a little bit to be desired, but there's some intrigue there with some of the characters, so I don't mind waiting for this show to further explore and develop those characters over time, because the potential is there. And Noah Hawley, like, even the fact that maybe I'm not grasping onto the characters as quickly as I would like to be, I think the world that Noah Hawley is creating and fleshing out, especially with the lore of the Alien franchise, I think excites me enough. I am totally invested in everything with the show. I think it is pretty damn good, and I can't wait to talk about episode 2 on my next review and then watch episode 3 next week. But guys, let me know down in the comments below of what you thought about episode 1 for Alien Earth. And also, while you're there, hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help us out. I had to change channels from the 2Game podcast channel and kind of move all the TV reviews, the movie reviews, and the anime reviews to this channel. So go ahead, hit that like and subscribe button. It's really going to help us grow this channel, and I would greatly appreciate it if you did that, so we can continue to give you reviews on all of the new releases, whether it's movies, anime, or TV shows. But I really do appreciate y'all joining me for this review. With that being said, that's going to be it for me. I'll catch y'all next time. Laters.